So, on the first Wednesday in September, I was watching a YouTube video. Anyone who knows me knows the kind of absolute trash that I spend my precious time on. The video included Paper Cut by Linkin Park, and I thought to myself, fuck, I forgot how great that album is. Over the next few days, I absolutely rinsed Hybrid Theory and Minutes to Midnight, the next best album. A couple of days later, a friend mentioned Linkin Park in one of my group chats. My friend was listening to them following the announcement on the 5th of September that they were back with a new album. Linkin Park, originally called Zero, was formed back in 1996 by Rob Burden, Brad Delson and Mike Shinoda back while they were still in high school. They later added Joe Hahn and Dave Farrell to the lineup, and in 1999, Chester Bennington from a band called Grey Days replaced the original vocalist. They were called Hybrid Theory for a time before finally settling on Linkin Park and released the album Hybrid Theory in the year 2000. For anyone living under a rock, we thought Linkin Park had effectively died with the loss of Chester Bennington. His suicide in July 2017 came only months after he sang at the funeral of his friend and musician Chris Cornell, who also took his life in May 2017. The loss of both left a pit in fans' stomachs that we've carried ever since. Well, they are back with new vocalist Emily Armstrong, a lesser-known singer from the band Dead Sara. This news felt strange to digest until the familiar, comforting outrage and controversy spread like wildfire. Guys, she's a Scientologist who supported a famous rapist. Nah, fuck you very much. I'm sure people would agree that there was an insufferable amount of posting on social media. Lots of opinions. Some friends argued that Chester was irreplaceable and strongly felt that her actions were tarnishing the band's legacy. Then there are those that feel that the claims are exaggerated and that Emily deserves a chance. We'll also keep in mind that I wrote this back in November and it's now February, and between that time we've seen Linkin Park fans really warm to Emily. From my experience with the UK music scene, most people tend to share similar views, except for the same fucking idiots that everybody knows that just like to be edgy. We can't pretend that the past few years hasn't been wild for cancel culture, which is a phenomenon that, despite what people think, is as old as time. Musicians have always faced backlash for their politics and their behaviour. So I thought, we'll be objective about this. Let's look at all the evidence, hear all the hot takes, and make an educated and informed judgment. Let's look at every side of this toxic coin. If you think Emily's performance is bad, then, my friend, you've been struck by the hand of cognitive bias. Listening to her, it is clear she is talented. Given her vocal abilities, she seamlessly fits into the band's sound. In my opinion, I understand why the band felt she was the right choice as they move forward with their careers and their own lives. Then I looked into the controversies that were causing such a stir. Emily is a second-generation Scientologist, born and raised as a cadet in the Sea organisation. A bastardised explanation from your source, Vicky the Intellectual, describes the Sea Org as a program where Scientology insinuates that new members will join the church as employees. In reality, they sign a lifetime contract to work for the church, receiving free room and board along with a small allowance, under strict rules that includes a recent ban on having children. The ban wasn't in place when Emily was young. She was placed in the Pack Ranch, with hundreds of other children born into Scientology and raised by an ever-changing group of other adult Scientologists. Given the negative exposure the Church of Scientology has received, especially after that South Park episode that allegedly still has David Miscavige screaming into a pillow. It carries a heavy stigma in 2025.
Scientology is just a big fat global scam.
Oh, we are gonna sue you!
What?
Yeah, you think you can say our religion is a lie? We'll sue you, buddy!
You told me it was a lie!
John Travolta and R. Kelly have all come out of the closet! So you're not the prophet, huh? You made me look stupid. I'm gonna sue you too!
Well, fine, go ahead and sue me!
I will! I'll sue you in England! You are so sued, kid!
Well, go on then, sue me!
We're going to!
The church, or if we're going to be more accurate, the cult, is infamous for requiring financial payments to progress through the ranks and harassment campaigns against former members with confirmed cases of abuse. In 2013, a press release from the church named Emily as one of their prominent members. Emily's band, Dead Sara, formed in 2007 and released their debut album in 2012. I don't know them, but they're a popular LA band. All of Dead Sara's members are Scientologists, some of whom Emily grew up with in the Sea Org. Emily has performed with Courtney Love. I love her, and I got some opinions about this show. Maybe another video. The Offspring and Demi Lovato. Now, it came to light that Emily attended a hearing in the trial of Danny Masterson, the actor who played Hyde in that 70s show.
Gray is why prisoners are unhappy.
Really, I always thought it was the loss of freedom.
He was found guilty of 2 counts of rape in 2023, with a hung jury on the 3rd count, why, how, and 2 further victims coming forward. Danny Masterson is the proud winner of a 30-year non-negotiable tenancy agreement at the California Men's Colony facility. Danny is also a second-generation Scientologist, and he and Emily were childhood friends, having grown up together in the Pack Ranch. This is where Emily met 2 bandmates from Dead Sara. The other member, Susie Medley, has a wealthy father who has a high rank in the church. In 2019, 4 Scientologists filed a civil suit against Masterson and the church. In response, the church labelled the accusers as SPs, short for suppressive persons, an act that declares them as enemies of Scientology. This requires all members to cease contact with them, including their own family.
Check this out and listen very carefully to the use of the word suppressive here.
Works great, doesn't it? It makes you feel good. You know, you can actually get your ethics in, Marty. That would be the thing.
Stop committing suppressive acts. Full-time suppressive acts. Full-time.
This suit was filed by the victims of Danny Masterson. In response, they launched a harassment campaign against them known as Fair Game. This involves stalking the SPs, victims, with reports of members following them home, breaking their windows, and even taking photos of them through the windows in their houses. It is alleged that Emily specifically participated in the intimidation of his victims. On the 6th of September, the day after the announcement, Emily released a statement on Instagram addressing these claims.
Several years ago, I was asked to support someone I considered a friend at a court appearance and went to one early hearing as an observer. Soon after, I realized I shouldn't have. I always try to see the good in people, and I misjudged him. I've never spoken with him since. Unimaginable details emerged, and he was later found guilty. To say it as clearly as possible, I do not condone abuse or violence against women, and I empathize with the victims of these crimes.
Reading this at face value, it does evoke a level of empathy for Emily here. And you have to be really careful what you say about this. I don't say that lightly. When I personally experienced coming out about my rapist and the reaction from our mutual friends, I had to put myself in their shoes in order to understand the anger and the hurt that I felt. Nobody wants to believe that their friend is a rapist. And if they truly believe that they are innocent, I appreciate the mental anguish of having to come to terms with the fact that your friend is capable of such an action. Please feel free to criticise my opinion on that. It's just how I coped with my own experience. When Linkin Park announced their comeback, fans were disappointed to learn that original drummer Rob Burden would not be reuniting with them, sparking speculation that he morally objected to Emily joining the band. Days later, on the 9th of September, guitarist Brad Delson revealed that he will not be performing with the band in future. Despite this, Brad wished them luck in their new chapter. He confirmed that his decision was unrelated to Emily's joining and expressed admiration for both her and new addition Colin Britton for their talent, their passion and partnership. On the 6th of September, Q101 Chicago released an interview with Mike Shinoda where he explained how the lineup came together. He spoke about feeling nervous at the show and mentioned that Emily became emotional while performing. On the same day, the band appeared in an interview with Zane Lowe, and they explained that they slowly began hanging out in studio sessions with lots of different vocalists, and Emily stood out amongst the others. They said that they became accustomed to Emily's sound and comfortable moving forward with her as the new vocalist. According to the band, their new album feels too much like Linkin Park to rename themselves. And yeah, I can see that. Now, Chester's son, Jaime Bennington, saw this interview and he saw Shinoda's messages to fans in his Discord server where he expressed that he understood fans will need time to process Emily, but also warned, disrespect me and lose my respect in return. Jaime posted a series of Instagram stories that some fans interpreted to be a rant stemming from mental illness, given Jamie's history of being estranged from other family members, as well as his belief in the conspiracy theory that Chester was murdered and did not commit suicide. Jamie's issue wasn't with the band moving forward, rather the choice of Emily, given her history with Scientology and support of Danny Masterson. He felt insulted by the decision to announce it during International Suicide Prevention Month, and added that the band didn't even give fans the courtesy of acknowledging these concerns. Jaime revealed that Shinoda and his wife have blocked him on social media and felt that Linkin Park had slowly erased Chester's life and legacy. He accused the band of a pattern of behaviour that marginalises and shuts down anyone who criticises them, constructive or otherwise. The slipping up he refers to from Zane Lowe's interview involves Emily's mention that she and Shinoda worked together in 2019.
Figure some stuff out. Where were your hopes at this point?
Good question. We started writing actually in 2019.
Now, Jamie's opinion matters because he is Chester's son. The death threats that he has received from fans are fucking gross. And for me, it's just a reflection on how normalised online abuse has become. Even though 7 years is a respectable length of time for the band to wait, for someone grieving a close loss, it will never be long enough. Jaime likely feels visceral anger as he perceives that his father's legacy is being left behind. The way that he lost his dad holds further weight, and guilt and denial are complex parts of losing someone to suicide. That's his process. It's not for anyone else to comment on. And he deserves compassion and understanding. People who are struggling to come to terms with loss are so vulnerable to idiots peddling conspiracies. It makes me angry. And it's crucial that others recognise this. In a video, Jaime expressed that he learned of Linkin Park's comeback through their announcement.
When I heard the Linkin Park news, I found out with everybody else. I didn't learn from anybody. Nobody.
So there was no like phone call from anybody
no text.
No, nothing from like your nothing. Absolutely nothing.
No, I just.
Despite his complicated relationship with his family and the band, that's shitty. I believe they owe him the respect of at least letting him know. To me, it feels cowardly, but also bearing in mind that I don't know the full history between him and his family. Speaking of his family, Jaime is estranged from them, having fallen out with family, including his siblings, years ago, allegedly over those conspiracy theories about Chester's death. One theory was that Shinoda was having a secret affair with Talinda, Chester's widow and Jamie's stepmother. Talinda cut Jaime off financially and filed a domestic violence restraining order against him and initiated a lawsuit. And I feel so sad learning how these family relationships fell apart following Chester's death. I do want to note that Talinda publicly supports Emily and commented on one of her Instagram posts with a heart and a fire emoji. I think it was his sister that also posted, "We support Emily," which, suggests that the family are supportive of the band. Some fans have expressed that Shinoda has used responses like Jaime's to frame the reaction as entitled fans being unreasonable, whilst intentionally ignoring the feeling that Chester's memory is being tarnished. Chester is a victim of child sex abuse, and many feel that Emily's history of supporting Danny Masterson, along with witness intimidation, feels like a betrayal of his legacy, and I can't blame them for that. But I have seen the discourse about what Chester would have wanted for the band's future, and I find that parasocial take to be quite delusional. Fans can't possibly know that, but I understand that people feel very strongly about this, and they're entitled to their opinion just as I'm forcing mine on you. But opinions aside, let's look at the objective evidence behind the allegations against Emily. Thank you to Interaction Pure 8410 on the Linkin Park subreddit for providing a history of Emily's online media support for Danny Masterson, complete with receipts. These sources indicate she liked his social media posts as recently as March 2022 and followed him on her account up until at least 30th of August 2024. Hang on, that's less than a week before the announcement. Another prominent voice against Armstrong and Scientology has been Cedric Bixler-Zavala, vocalist of At the Drive-In and Mars Volta. His wife, Chrissy Carnell Bixler, was a victim in the trials against Masterson. It was her trial that the jury deadlocked with an 8-4 vote in favour of guilty, and this was the hung jury case that I mentioned earlier. Cedric spoke of his wife's sexual assault in 2 tweets in 2017, sharing that he wrote At the Drive-In song Incurably Innocent about her experience. Cedric Bixler-Zavala is an ex-Scientologist who was introduced into the church by his wife in 2009. He was pictured with Emily at a Scientology gala in 2013, so this is a credible source. Since becoming outspoken against Scientology in 2017, he has accused the church of silencing sexual assault victims and harassing him and his wife in the fallout of these allegations. An article from Billboard.com in January 2020 reported that his wife, along with Marie Riles and 2 Jane Does, filed a lawsuit against Masterson and the Church of Scientology for stalking, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is a civil suit that I mentioned earlier. So his wife, Christy, was in a relationship with Masterson when she was raped and physically abused by him. According to her lawsuit, when she reported Masterson to the church ethics officer, she was told, "You were not raped. You can't be raped by someone you are in a consensual relationship with." That is a quote from Scientology, and that is categorically not the case. It's obviously not true, and such an awful thing to hear. She states the ethics officer asked her what she did to cause the assault and ordered her to complete an ethics course? Jesus fuck me. Fucking gross. Sorry. So Chrissy and Cedric made a series of Instagram posts against Emily. On the 8th of September, Cedric posted the following.
A message from my wife above. A message from me. Emily, did you know that your friend Chris Waddens and Danny would drive by one of the Jane Does very slowly after a fucked up day of cross-examinations and follow her in their car, staring at her, trying to intimidate her? Did you know that Alana Masterson would hide in the bathrooms after one of the Jane Does had a massive panic attack on the stand and proceeded to harass her in the bathroom, calling her a liar? What, you didn't hear about that? Did your parents shield you from that? Your OSA parents? Or were you cool with that? Doesn't your church call that the fair game policy? Weren't you just hanging out with Nasal Queef herself, Bijou Phillips, just a couple of days ago? Oh wait, she's okay now because she divorced Danny? She sure had a grand old time reading my wife's police report in a mocking post. Remember how she screamed when they took Danny away? I bathed in that moment every single fucking day. Careful, homegirl. That Phillips curse is contagious. Just read Mackenzie Phillips' book. You should also read up on that fucking dingbat Bijou's past behavior. That is, of course, if the church allows you to read about her. They do have a policy about reading anything critical of the church and its members. Your church also has a bad snitching culture where you write knowledge reports on fellow members who are not following the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard. Just like the East German Stasi imposed on its citizens That's your church? Today is the 1-year anniversary of having put that shitbag you thought was a good guy in jail. You can't even say sorry to the Jane Does properly, huh? Your apology is worded as if you hired some PR crisis team to help you. As for you, at Linkin Park, you should fire your entire team for not thoroughly vetting your choice. You're a Disney-level brand trying to make a comeback and you didn't think to spend a little money on looking into her. Stop playing at the drive-ins music on your pre-show playlist.
Interestingly, it's alleged that Masterson's wife, Bijou Phillips, how do you pronounce that?
Speechmodification.com presents how to pronounce
Bijou.
Bijou.
Bijou. Bijou.
Bijou.
Bijou.
Bijou.
Bijou.
Bijou.
Bijou.
Get more help for names of people, places, and brands in this playlist.
It's alleged that Masterson's wife, Bijou Phillips, divorced him as part of a financial and PR strategy. One point supporting this claim is that despite the church's assertion that anyone convicted of a crime is considered an SP, Masterson remains in good standing with Scientology, who continue to protect and advocate for him. Cedric claimed Emily has been hanging out with his wife as recently as September 2024. The YouTube channel Rage Against the Dark Arts is run by Miriam Francis, who was a victim of CSA that the Church of Scientology covered up. Miriam would have grown up with the ex-Scientologists and the current Scientologists involved around Masterson's hearings. In a community post, Miriam cited the date that Emily attended the preliminary hearing as the 18th of September 2020. Emily is correct that it was an early hearing of the trial that finally concluded in 2023. But if we refer back to Emily's own statement, she claims that soon after attending this hearing, she realised she shouldn't have. Ask yourself, would you consider soon to be after 2022? Miriam, Cedric and Chrissy claim in their post that Emily was part of a large group who surrounded and intimidated the victims to the extent that court sheriffs had to intervene. They assert that she supported Masterson both inside and outside of court. Miriam asks her, who asked you to support him? Was it Scientology? She asks if Emily has now left Scientology, and if so, is she willing to speak out against their cruel practices? Well, she hasn't. According to Aaron Smith-Levin, an ex-Scientologist who shares his experiences on his YouTube channel growing up with Scientology, who, given Jenna Miscavige's video about him, isn't a great person either, says that regardless of what Emily says about supporting victims in her statement, he argues that there is next to no chance she believes that Masterson is guilty of his crimes.
And it's also easy for me to remember the black and white thinking that we were trained into, that if you're criticizing us or our group in a way that damages our repute in the world, even if you are right, even if you're telling the truth, you are our enemy, you're an enemy of mankind, and the validity of what you're saying is irrelevant because you could say that privately. And saying it publicly makes you an enemy of mankind, and it makes you an enemy of Scientology, and it makes you an enemy of me. That's how Scientologists think. So Emily Armstrong, as a true believing Scientologist, would, even if she believed the Jane Does, still hate them as enemies of mankind for dragging Danny Masterson and Scientology into a court of law. Most Scientologists, though, actually take it to the next level, which is it's not good enough to believe them, but hate them for what they're doing, for what they're doing. They also actually have to convince themselves that these women are lying.
This means that because the victims reported the assaults and the church's subsequent cover-up to the police, they damaged the reputation of the church, making them the enemy. And it doesn't matter if the facts are valid. That does not matter to Scientologists. It's by going public that they become adversaries of the church and its members. Aaron also explained that with Masterson's case, the church informed members that these were fake victims recruited by Leah Remini, an outspoken ex-member, to discredit Scientology. Aaron asserts that Scientologists will believe this without question.
There's a lot of people who grew up in Scientology who did not show up to court to help intimidate the Jane Does in a way that the sheriffs said they have only ever seen before in gang prosecutions.
Let's talk about Emily's affiliation with Scientology, a detail that she deliberately left out of her statement. But before I do that, I need to mention first the caveats with providing evidence. It is few and far between. Aaron Smith-Levin explains that it is ingrained into Scientologists not to publicly discuss the church, who incite a culture of silence and fear of retribution. But no Scientologist will tell you that. The vast majority comes from current or ex-members who have chosen to remain anonymous. Therefore, you will not find many internet receipts involving Emily to back up the facts. Some accounts are from people born into Scientology who knew Emily from the Pack Ranch, where some of the Sea Org or Cadet Org children were raised in. Tony Ortega is a journalist best known for his coverage on the Church of Scientology, spanning over nearly 30 years, who works closely with ex-Scientologist Mike Rinder, former senior executive of the Church of Scientology International and the Sea Org. Rinder provides invaluable insight into what life was like as a high-ranking member. He was a part of OSA, the Office of Special Affairs, what was essentially an intelligence agency led by David Miscavige, who were responsible for managing all legal, media, public information type matters affecting the church. There is documented cases of OSA monitoring and targeting critics with fake allegations and character assassinations, and they've targeted governments of different countries, high-ranking police officials, celebrities, corporations. Mike Rinder provided insight into OSA intelligence and covert operations, aka their spy wing. It's so interesting. Please go and look it up if this type of thing interests you at all. Some of the sources that I've included below includes direct sources and things like the memos that OSA sent around to the members. Yeah, I got way too much into this stuff. I might have done a teeny tiny Scientology course. It was online and free, okay? I forgot what I was talking about. Emily's parents were high-ranking members of OSA. Her mother, Gal Armstrong, remains a Scientologist and wrote speeches for the church's leader, David Miscavige. Her father, Charlie Armstrong, apparently referred to by other members as Mr. Clean, is no longer married to Gal or part of the church. In 2012, Rinder identified Gal Armstrong as one of the people who had been confined to the Hole with him. The Hole was a business office that David Miscavige locked people in. They were forced to sleep on floors and desks, fed slop from a bucket, and spend their time in seances, or sit around in a circle and bully confessions out of each other about their supposed ill thoughts and wrongdoings against Miscavige. These seances included members being beaten, forced to stand in trash cans for 12 hours plus, or made to do degrading tasks like licking the bathroom floor. Emily was not just the daughter of high-ranking Scientologists. Her mother wrote speeches for Miscavige, rising through the ranks to become a key public relations speaker for the church itself.
In those terms, please welcome Ms. Gail Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Our global IS campaigns are designed to rescue...
She is the editor of Freedom magazine, a publication that promotes the church's views, rebuts any criticism, and highlights their work for human rights and freedom, ironically. Freedom magazine is a key part of the church's propaganda machine. After Mike Rinder left, the church released videos with members denouncing him as a bad worker. One of those members was fellow inmate Gal Armstrong. The videos are still available as of February 2025. Rinder notes that he suspected Emily's silence on the church is to avoid alienating her family. As a Sea Org cadet being raised in the Pack Ranch, she wouldn't have heard from her parents for years at a time and was likely unaware that her mother was in the Hole. Still, there is no excuse for her not being aware that her mother was a part of the harassment campaign towards Rinder. In 2013, Emily attended the Scientologist 44th Gala and was named as one of the church's prominent members, as seen with Cedric Bixler-Zavala earlier. It has also been confirmed by various sources, anonymous of course, that to date, Emily is 100% still a Scientologist, which explains her avoidance to comment on them.
The connections between Emily and Scientology are not fickle. They are not fleeting. They are not minor. Emily Armstrong is ride or die Scientology, ride or die Danny Masterson.
In an interview with the Bay Area Reporter in August 2022, Emily reaffirmed that she identifies as queer and a lesbian, which goes against the church's teachings. This is highly unusual, as due to her high standing in the church, she is one of 2 members that have been allowed to come out as LGBTQ. It is no secret that Scientologists will not acknowledge the well-documented history of abuse and harassment towards its own members, which brings us a full circle back to her association with Danny Masterson. We can't talk about Emily's relationship with the church without talking about her band, Dead Sara.
The band Dead Sara has many connections to Scientology. Chris Wadhams is another Scientologist, an actual former Sea Org member. I've known Chris Wadhams since I was 13 years old. Chris Wadhams is so close with Danny and Bijou that he donated Bijou his kidney. Chris Wadhams was also in court every single day in Danny's private section for both trials. I sat across the aisle from Chris Wadhams in the courtroom every single day for the second trial. You don't get more ride or die for Danny Masterson and Scientology than Chris Wadhams. Chris Wadhams is the guitarist. He's a guitarist or a drummer. I want to say guitarist who tours with Emily and Dead Sara all the time.
Talented musicians you guys are. Let's get all your names to the open of the show here.
I'm Chris.
Sean.
Susie. Emily.
Wow.
Now, it may be true that they are all Scientologists, but there are also claims that Dead Sara is a propaganda band for the Sea Org. You might think that this would be embedded into their lyrics. However, I can't see obvious evidence that this is the case. In fact, the evidence speaks to the contrary. Thank you to the second jester on the Linkin Park subreddit who brought some, let me say it, objective perspective as a Dead Sara fan. A lyric in their song called Heaven's Got a Back Door reads, "I'm through feeling sorry for the things that I can't choose. If I made it this far being who I am, maybe heaven's got a back door too." And a lyric in the song Un-American reads, "You can have my innocence that I lost when I was 6. No, I'm not your daughter. No, I'm not your bitch. I guess I'm un-American." Emily speaks openly about her mental health struggles throughout her discography, which is at odds with the church's teachings, who view mental illness as a spiritual issue and oppose psychiatry and psychiatric medications. And they believe that therapy and medications to treat mental illness are harmful and unnecessary. Instead, they promote Dianetics, which claims that mental illness stems from negative mental imagery stored in what they call engrams, which reside in the reactive mind. This is done by a process called auditing, where the audited confesses their traumatic experiences and wrongdoings.
The purpose of auditing is to bring an individual from a condition of spiritual blindness to the joy of spiritual enlightenment and freedom, the long-sought goal of religion since its earliest beginnings.
The auditor records these confessions, and it is widely reported that these recordings are used as collateral to control their members. This raises questions about the integrity of Emily's artistic expression. Juxtaposition of her personal and artistic identity against her affiliation with Scientology creates a conflicting picture. However, Serge Delmar, known as literally Serge on YouTube, is a former child of Scientology who suffered sexual abuse whilst at the Sea Org, who has stated that he knows Emily personally and knew that she also suffered the same abuse. As an adult, Serge's parents paid $40,000 for him to be trained as an auditor, and he has worked at the Celebrity Centre in LA. Serge's experiences as an LGBTQX member of the church shed light on the disparities in treatment between celebrity members like Emily and other Scientologists. Emily Armstrong's status in the church has afforded her a vastly different experience to that of other LGBTQ members. Emily's being free to openly identify as gay, with her mother advocating for her, starkly contrasts the experiences of many LGBTQ individuals within Scientology. The church is known for its oppressive treatment of LGBTQ members, and whilst this privilege is not her fault, she knows how other LGBTQ members are treated. They are criticised, shamed, and punished. In a live stream on the 12th of September 2024 entitled "Is Linkin Park's Mike Shinoda a Scientologist?", Both Serge and Aaron agreed that Emily's addition to Linkin Park represents one of the church's biggest public relations victories in a long time, which segues into the next question. Are Linkin Park Scientologists?
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that even if Mike Shinoda himself may not be a Scientologist, that he and the band, all the members of the band, have most definitely been turned into safe points for Scientology. What does that mean?
So that means that, again, right, it's like part of the BTS technology that Owen Hubbard pitches is to have no one on your lines antagonistic to what you're involved in, your family's involved in. They cannot have a shred of bad thought about it. That's already, she has to go to ethics. She has to figure out how she's going to smooth that out. Now, they say that they've known each other for years, right? So Emily didn't just get hired last week. It's taken how many, 7 years to create, to cement the relationship, to create all. And again, in Scientology, they're always hooking.
Well, according to Serge Delmar, Emily would not have been cleared to work with them unless they were vetted and safe-pointed by the church. A safe point in Scientology refers to positions or relationships that protect Scientology from criticism or harm, particularly in communities where it seeks to influence or expand. This ensures that those in these relationships or positions either align with Scientology's interests or would not pose a threat to the organization.
I would suspect that Emily would have people in her entourage who are actually spying on her for Scientology, just like they had for Lisa Marie Presley, just like they had for John Travolta, just like they had for Tom Cruise.
Serge Delmar explains that celebrities have a team of handlers that cater to their needs and monitor them to make sure that they stay within the church's teachings.
Well, even her own bandmates, right? Like even them, like Susie and the other guy, like they have to self-report even between them for any ethics cycles. Like they're always reporting on each other. Like
the Celebrity Center, the president's office, is going to use any information they can get about Linkin Park and its band members from Emily or the people in Emily's entourage to figure out how to use the band to their advantage, what cracks in the armor, how can they get in, how can they slide in here, how can they slip in here, who can they insert into this person's life, who can, they can arrange an introduction to this person, maybe get this person a Scientologist girlfriend, maybe get this person a Scientologist assistant. This is how Scientology works. This is why it matters.
They also use their connections in the entertainment industry to help elevate the celebrity's career. Serge points out that the benefits of being a celebrity Scientologist, such as free services and network opportunities within the industry, can be highly attractive.
I can understand, sort of, whoever's managing Linkin Park's social media platforms. I can understand deleting negative comments about Emily. I mean, some people would disagree with me that that's not okay. But I don't understand deleting negative comments about Scientology. So for the band to take some public position that we are not going to tolerate negative comments about this international human trafficking cult that destroys families and covers up child SA, it is no wonder the fans continue to be outraged about this whole situation.
The church's policy towards celebrities has shifted in recent years, now advising them not to talk about Scientology. We all know that there are more Scientologists in the celebrity world than we realise. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, for example, were the first celebrities given permission to deny their ties to the church, despite many former members confirming their involvement.
Hello, your computer has virus.
As for Linkin Park, it's unclear whether the band has any association with Scientology, but being safe-pointed strongly suggests that they were evaluated and deemed non-threatening to the church. With Emily now part of the band, the church's legal team would have made sure that her handlers are included in their entourage and will likely influence and monitor her activities, including those within the band. So both Mike and Emily said that they've been friends for years, and you have a reliable source that says in order to work with Linkin Park, they would have to be safe-pointed by the church. So this does seem plausible. If you fall down the rabbit hole as much as I did, there is a video of Linkin Park rehearsing Hybrid Theory in an LA studio from February 2000, and in it, Brad mentions that they moved to a new studio, and while the focus in this shot seems to be on the street name, it's extremely coincidental that the Scientology building is visible in the background. I think that this is going too far, especially as Jaime Bennington would have confirmed whether Chester himself practiced Scientology. Unless Jaime is a Scientologist and is keeping it quiet. But I doubt that. I will get this out now. Emily is great from a performance standpoint. Her voice is incredible. That is not subjective. It is undeniable. I believe the two issues here, Emily's support of Danny Masterson and her Scientology background, are too intertwined to address separately. Regarding Emily's statement, I do believe that Emily is not being truthful about her support of Danny Masterson. This is backed by multiple accounts of Emily attending court with the group that harassed the victims. Whether Emily was an active participant is unclear, and it's a fair assumption that she was asked by the church to attend in support. Her claim that she was disgusted soon after and never spoke to him again doesn't hold up for me. She's friends with his wife, and she's liked his Instagram posts until March 2022, meaning that she supported him until at least then. My definition of soon isn't 2 years, and I believe that this allegation is valid. When it comes to Scientology, Emily was born into it. She never had the choice, and that isn't her fault. The argument that her joining Linkin Park is an insult to Chester, given the church's history of suppressing sexual abuse and CSA, is a valid point, but it appears that Emily may be a victim of CSA herself, and that is not her fault either. What we know is that Emily had a difficult upbringing. Separated from her parents in the Sea Org Pack Ranch under strict discipline and control. Even though she's outspoken about her LGBTQ identity, she knows the vast majority of her peers were and are punished and degraded for their sexuality. The fact that she's been afforded a level of privilege due to her mother's influence is not her fault, but it's also not okay. Some people have pointed out, and I think it's fair, that if Emily were to publicly criticise Scientology, she would be excommunicated by family and friends that she has known her whole life, as well as being subjected to a harassment campaign by the church.
No way you're delivering anything to do with Scientology.
All right, I've got you guys now. Now leave.
Okay, we'll be glad to leave.
Good. And don't come back.
Marty, why don't you come downstairs and we'll interview you on this point.
I told you to leave. Get out of here.
Oh, no, I'm leaving.
It is no secret that the church target their ex-members. They may deny it, but you can literally see it. It is not that simple for Emily, and it is something that those who object to her addition to Linkin Park from a moral high ground must consider. Ultimately, I remain baffled by Linkin Park's response to this situation. They're arguably one of the biggest bands in the world, and in 2024 being the year that their new album was announced, it's unthinkable that a high-profile band would not do their homework, even local bands members now, to avoid the possibility of damaging allegations. And we've all seen how allegations can end bands within 24 hours. Now, Linkin Park are too big of a band for this to happen to, for issues such as the ones that has happened with Emily, but they need some serious introspection of how they've handled this, or at the very least need to consult a PR team. Their lack of foresight in anticipating the upset that this situation will cause is perplexing, and by not addressing the matter, leads fans to speculate whether Linkin Park are Scientologists themselves. But all we know for sure right now is that they are not against Scientology. Ultimately, Scientology has its foot in the door to one of the biggest bands of our time through Emily. She will not be allowed to travel without handlers who will report everything back to OSA. The church will undoubtedly use Emily to mislead people that they are accepting of diversity, and will leverage her success to entice vulnerable fans with the false promise that they too could achieve their dreams if they join. And it's incredibly sad to me that the church have used Emily for their own personal interests for her whole life, and that they continue to do so. And after this backlash, sources have said that Emily is considering leaving the band, which I think is a shame. Emily should be able to seize this opportunity, but I think the situation could have been handled far better by Linkin Park themselves, rather than leaving it to Emily and Scientology to do it for them. Emily Armstrong is a victim of Scientology, and her circumstances are not her fault. However, I believe that Emily is accountable for recognising that her position in the church is one of privilege. If she stands with victims, she has an incredibly powerful platform to support those within the church. And to me, the real danger lies within the church using her influence to infiltrate new audiences, especially vulnerable fans who might see her success as an endorsement of the church's values, which may promote a false image of acceptance and diversity. That, in my humble opinion, is the most alarming aspect of all. Thanks for watching.